I, 22F, will be getting married next year. I'm taking my fiancé's last name, and with changing my last name, I will also be petitioned the courts to change my first name. This has been a long time coming. My name doesn't hold anything positive for me, and I have been going by my almost name since I was 12. So it made sense to make the change official. I was abandoned as a baby, grew up in foster care, and nobody knows if I had a name before. But I was given the name Charlotte by someone involved in my case early on, and that was the name put on my birth certificate. It never held any great meaning. Since I was never adopted, I never got named by loving parents either, and the name always just felt wrong, weird, and tied to nothing important. When I met my best friend, she told me I looked like a Kenzie, and I've been Kenzie ever since. My fiancé thinks it's great I'm making the change. But his parents are opinionated on this. They asked me before why I would rather be something cutesy like Kenzie instead of mature and pretty like Charlotte, and they told me how complicated it would be to change all my documents to reflect my new name. They told me Charlotte sounds more like a professional woman, a wife and a mother than Kenzie. I showed them that even my work ID has Kenzie on it already because we can use preferred names at my job. But they didn't want to hear it. When they found out I got advice on if it would be possible to change both names at the same time and obtain the forms, they questioned my motives more and more. They told me Charlotte was lovely and it was their second choice for a girl. My fiancé has told them repeatedly that this is not their decision and it's my name ultimately. He also reminded them that everyone calls me Kenzie already. But it wasn't the end, and they bring up how names are a gift of love from a parent to a child. It's a blessing to be named by parents. And they bring up far too often how much time and effort parents put into naming their kids. They know I wasn't named by a parent, that I was abandoned and named by someone who basically never saw me again. My fiancé told them those comments needed to stop. But last weekend, when some of my fiancé's extended family were at his parents' house and we stopped by, they were talking about it again, and I might have snapped, just a little. I told them my decision to change my name is none of their business, zero business of theirs, and quit with the insensitive comments about parents naming people because I was named by a random person who was part of my original abandonment case. They told me I didn't need to be so rude in their own home, and I was acting like they couldn't talk about naming children without aiming it at me. My fiancé told them they knew what they were doing and I wasn't rude, I was honest. But they said I disrespected them in their own home. Comment 1. NTA. Pick 2 more mature-sounding names, and every time they bring up the subject, refer to them using those names. As I've told you before, Edith and Eustace, this is a choice that I have made and I am not soliciting input from you. Comment 2. NTA. This isn't their decision and has zero impact on them, especially since they've always known you as Kenzie. So it's not like they need to learn to call you something new. The only person this decision impacts is you, therefore, yours in the only opinion that matters on the subject. I'd also like to point out that you were in fact named by someone who loves/cares for you. Sounds like you have an amazing best friend. Comment 3. NTA. And your in-laws have a weird investment in your name. Why do they care so much? Do they call you Kenzie or Charlotte? Because if they've been calling you by your preferred name all this time, why would they care? Honestly, seems like they're being insufferable just for the sake of it. And they have the nerve to say you disrespected them in their own home, after disrespecting you. The audacity. My husband and I got married less than a year ago. For most of our relationship, one of our biggest issues and cause of arguments has been his family. My husband has a large family, and including half-siblings, he is one of 12 children. This includes his twin brother, Sam, who has autism. One of his younger brothers also has autism but is higher functioning. Previously, before we married, one of my husband's brothers moved in with us for 8 months. I knew going into it that it was going to be temporary and therefore okayed it. However, I made clear then that his family members staying with us wasn't really ideal for me. Both of my husband's autistic brothers have spent most their lives living with their grandpa. However, Back in 2018, they decided it was no longer appropriate for Sam to live with their grandpa due to his higher care needs. Sam moved in with their oldest sister and has lived there ever since. Sam is mostly non-verbal, and although he has some independent skills, he needs help with everyday tasks and shouldn't really be left home alone for more than an hour. My Sil's youngest child left home early last year, and she's now planning to move in with her eldest son and her grandkids. She can only do this if she can find a new home for Sam. Recently, my husband came to me and told me he wanted Sam to move in with us. He argued we have the space, and he has the time to look after Sam. He thinks as Sam's twin it's his duty to be the one to take Sam in. He also said their sister is still going to be spending a lot of time with Sam. I feel bad, but I told him I didn't want Sam to live with us. This would be a long-term living arrangement, not temporary like his other brother. I told him he should have told me before marriage that he would be wanting his brother to live with us. I feel because he didn't, it's my right to say no now. This is a big change that will affect the rest of the foreseeable future and our future plans of starting a family. Yesterday, my husband and I were at my Sil's home discussing Sam's future, and I told her I didn't want Sam to move in with us. I suggested to her if she stayed in-house to look after Sam, my husband and I can try to be a bigger help to her. She became annoyed with me after that and complained she's been looking after her younger siblings since kindergarten, became a teen mom, and raised 7 kids of her own, and she can finally now have the time to do what she wants. I expressed my opinion that she was being cold to Sam, who is incredibly attached to her. I could see him getting very depressed living away from her. She got mad at me after that. Although my husband said he would only take Sam in with my consent, I can tell he's going to hold it against me if I don't. I think they're being very short-sighted about Sam's future, and all the siblings have flat out refused him going into a home. Comment 1. YTA for how you threw a guilt trip on someone who has been parentified and had their time and well-being extracted from them for damn near their whole life. That was a dick move. NTA for standing your own ground with your husband. Edit, though I do think it was lacking in foresight and pragmatism on your part to marry someone with a disabled twin, thinking that wouldn't impact your life. Should have had that discussion. Comment 2. YTA, not because you are unwilling to take care of Sam, but because you did a really great job of emotional blackmail on the one who has been Sam's caregiver. You don't think she realizes what this will do to Sam not being with her after so long. And your only solution is to leave the burden to one family member and try to be a bigger help. Try, pathetic. You did marry into this family, correct? Comment 3. NTA, for resisting your husband's request to have his twin brother move in, especially if this wasn't previously disclosed as part of your marriage expectations. It's reasonable to consider how such a long-term arrangement might affect your future plans. However, addressing this issue with empathy and engaging in constructive dialogue with your husband and his family might be necessary to reach a solution that accommodates both your needs and Sam's well-being. 17F, have a cousin, Adrienne, 30F, who's always been seen as the black sheep of our family. She's neurodivergent and has a more alternative style. Think bright hair, tattoos, and piercings. We were never close because of the age gap, but our families wanted to be close-knit. When Adrienne turned 20, her family decided to visit us and celebrate her birthday together. Here's the problem. I was 7 at the time and, well, I threw a tantrum. I wanted to go to a different restaurant than the one Adrienne had picked, and I made such a fuss that everyone ended up staying home. Later, when they got a cake for Adrienne, I insisted on blowing out the candles myself, and my parents let me do it because they didn't want to deal with another meltdown and told Adrienne she was too old to be making a fuss over her birthday anyway. I honestly don't remember much from that day, but apparently, it really hurt Adrienne. She wasn't even allowed to celebrate with her friends like she wanted because she had to come on that family trip. Fast forward to now, and I'm applying to colleges, specifically in the state where Adrienne lives. Over the years, I've come to realize just how toxic some of our family dynamics are, and I reached out to Adrienne to apologize for what happened when I was a kid. I told her that I understand now, and I asked if she could help me navigate things as I apply to schools in her area. Adrienne pretty much brushed me off and told me she's still upset about what happened on her 20th birthday. I tried to explain that I was just a kid at the time and that I'm sorry, but she's holding on to this grudge like it happened yesterday. I told her she needs to let it go, but she seems really stuck on it. My parents think she's being unreasonable, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm being insensitive to her feelings. Comment 1. YTA apologizing purely for the sake of getting something out of the person who was wronged is not a genuine apology in the slightest. Telling her how she should or shouldn't feel is super dismissive and quite frankly pretty toxic on your part. Your choices and actions at 7 were not developmentally appropriate or acceptable. Maybe for a 2-year-old, sure, but at 7 kids know better, and that was some next level entitlement. In fact, your entitlement in regard to expecting help from someone who isn't close to you because of how you and your family treated them shows us you still haven't grown up and rather have just grown into your parents. Comment 2. YTA. To be clear, you were a 7-year-old and now you are a 17-year-old. It had to be all about you then, same as now. You're only apologizing now because you want her help. She would probably have forgiven you before now if you had offered an apology that wasn't just a preface to asking for a favor. Also, it makes no sense for you to be asking this black sheep for help with college, or adulting in general. Sounds like you don't approve of her choices in life, so why would you want her advice? 46M, lost my wife to cancer 4 years ago, when our 2 sons were 6 and 8 years old. It was a difficult adjustment for all of us, and I'd be kidding if I said it doesn't remain difficult, but I can also say that the boys and I have managed to move forward as a close-knit family. They're doing great in school. I'm fortunate enough to be well off, so I have been able to afford therapy for all of us and plenty of help around the house. We have an awesome roster of babysitters who the kids love. And my late wife's sister and brother-in-law happen to live near us and have stepped up as additional adult family figures in my kids' lives. I have not pursued any relationships since my wife's passing. I want to focus on my kids. It's not like I am a hermit or anything. I have plenty of friends and I do get the opportunity to socialize, thanks to babysitters and my sister and brother-in-law. For sure, it's not the life I envisioned a decade ago, but I feel like I am making things work and I'm proud of our resilience as a family. The problem is my mother, divorced from my dad and remarried, and my older brother, divorced and remarried. A year or so after my wife's death, they started making comments about how I needed to start dating again, with the strong hint that my kids needed a mother figure around. I found this annoying then and only more annoying as time has gone on. The comments tend to wax and wane. The irony is that both my mother and my brother ended up with step-kids. In my mother's case, it happened just after I left for college, so I never lived with stepdad or step-siblings, but my younger brother did, and it was a shitshow for him. He and the step-siblings never got along, he never recognized stepdad as father figure. Our dad never remarried and he and my brother have a much better relationship than he and my mother do. My older brother's family is a signal example of the phenomenon visible all over this sub of 2 people with kids remarrying in the belief that they are going to be the Brady Bunch but instead ending up as the Jerry Springer Show. The step-sibs war with each other and their respective step-parent. Here's my potential a-hole behavior. At a recent family dinner, no kids, just mom, my 2 brothers and I, mom and older brother started in again on the you need to find a partner nonsense. I tried to deflect it in a non-confrontational way. I guess my family is like a wheelchair, we're not designed to handle steps. It didn't work, as they became defensive and that I was pig-headed to avoid dating for that reason. I lost my temper and told them that they could do as they please, but personally I feel like the happiness of my kids is more important than having a full bed and someone to make me breakfast. Brother's wife is Zam. I can pay a maid or a cook if I need it, I said. Younger brother said amen, but mom and other bro said my comments were cruel and insulting. Did I overreact? Comment 1. They say a hard head makes for a soft bottom. I hope that's true for them when they trip and fall over this audacity. They've been at this 3 years. Get you some business and STFU. Sounds like you and your kids are thriving. It seems like men are always in a rush to remarry. On social media a few months ago this guy was talking about how much he loved and cherished his wife, but 18 months after she died he was ready to find a new wife. It's just disheartening. It's just refreshing to see a man who's actually okay focusing on himself and kids for more than a few years. NTA. I like your style. Their stance very much gives misery loves company. Comment 2. I think men statistically rush to remarry, but I also think, like in this post, they're pushed to remarry a lot of the time. Especially if they have kids. There's still a lot of people who can't grasp the idea of a man taking care of his kids by himself full time. They feel without a mom or partner there just has to be something missing, something falling through the cracks. It's very weird. Comment 3. NTA, as a former step kid, not everyone is meant to be in a blended family. It sucked for me and many others. It is nice to see a parent put their children's best interest first before their own. Most are not like you.